Welcome to Homeschool is a Work of Heart. I'm Melissa Webb, and after years in the classroom and years homeschooling and supporting those in home education, and even more years creating curriculum for families like yours, I have learned this. Homeschooling isn't about perfection. It is about purpose. And this podcast is here to encourage you, to guide you, and to remind you that what you're doing truly matters. Are you ready to get started? Let's go. Well, hello there. I hope you are doing absolutely fantastic. Today, I was recently thinking about how difficult it can sometimes be to get back into routine after a break. And I was thinking about times when I've been riding a bike and I've had to stop the momentum because maybe there's a light that's turned red. So I have to stop for the light. And then when I push to get started, it's that getting started again that can just be a little tedious, a little difficult before I'm rolling again. And that's kind of how I feel winter break can feel. I think it's officially over for most all of us, and we are back to the grind, which, by the way, I have to say is probably one of my least favorite idioms. Doesn't that just sound tired, like back to the grind? I don't know, it feels heavy, a little miserable. I prefer saying it's time to get back into the groove. So are you getting back into the groove? I am, and routines help. However, I do want to talk about routines, and I want to begin by saying they shouldn't be about rigidity. Instead, I want you to consider setting your kids up to think better, act better, and learn better through the use of routines. And I know that term routine can be used so broadly, but maybe you have a morning routine. For me, I'm up at 6. I get out for a brisk walk. I come back and have my fresh coffee and write in my devotional journal. Then I'm in the shower by 8 o'clock, in my office by 9. That's my morning routine. But maybe meal times are more routine for you. Breakfast by 7, and then maybe continued fasting until noon for some of you, but then getting dressed. Maybe that's how your routines evolve. Or a lot of people have evening routines as well. Baths by 8, bedtime reading, lights out by 9. No matter how you roll, routines are good for everyone because predictability, which is what a routine can offer, is supportive emotionally for children and adults. It's great cognitively, and it's even linked to academic development in children. So that's what I thought we would talk about today. Now, one of my goals this year is to be ready to share a new book with you every month. I was going to say every week, but it just felt a bit much. So I'm going to say every month, and we'll see how I do with that. One book that crossed my path is by a homeschool mom. She actually is a CEO of her own company. She's like a homeschool coach, I suppose. But she wrote a book called Rhythms and Routines. And I think it has some nuggets in there that are of value. So I'm going to give you my 3 big takeaways that this homeschool mama shared. And then you can always purchase her book or download it or borrow a copy. But if you're just too busy to read, you're going to appreciate just this quick little summary I have. So I wrote down takeaway number 1. I like that she says routines are meant to support the family, not trap the family. And I agree with that. So yes, let's say daily math practice, very important. But she would say instead of saying math 9 o'clock sharp, you could say we're going to do math when we finish breakfast. The positive piece of that is that the clock is not the boss. Life is allowed to just play out, and it may not be the exact time, even though the order will remain the same. The second takeaway that I wrote down is that she said consistency is more important than complexity when it comes to routines. And I agree with this too. I have shared this in a previous podcast where at the start of your day, to always know you have these 3 daily anchors, that's what I call them. I know we're going to read every day, we're going to write every day, and we're going to do some math every day. And as long as we do those 3 things, those are part of our routine, then I feel successful, the kids feel successful. We may do way more, but we at least are going to be doing consistently those 3 things. And it doesn't have to get more complex than that. Everything else that you add on is just a bonus in that day. So again, I really like that. And the third takeaway that I wrote down, and I do love this, she is all about giving grace, yes, to our children, but also to ourselves. So she says a good routine bends without breaking. And I agree with that as well. So if we just imagined you had your day's lessons all laid out, right? The night before you had everything ready to go, but one of your kids had a really rough night and didn't sleep well, and now is melting down over finishing his writing assignment, let's say. So when you see this happening, because this is life, you want to remember, hey, yes, a good routine, important, but it should be able to bend without breaking. And so you could just step in. You could say, hey, I know you did not sleep well last night, sweetheart. Let me transcribe or type for you. Or let's just shorten this lesson today. Or, you know what, we're going to try again tomorrow. So I want to encourage you today to think of routines more like a GPS for all of your brains, for yours, but also for your kids. I think a routine is much like a mental map. And research shows that when our brains can quickly direct us where to go next, what we are to do next, we spend less energy figuring out what's happening. And instead, we actually have more energy to think and to create and to learn. And that's really important. Routines take away a lot of the unknowns, making things far more stable. And that's a win for every single person involved. So instead of thinking of a routine like a list of our family rules, nope, they're structures, but they are bendable. And their goal is to help us all succeed. And there are 3 things that I want to encourage you to spend some time thinking about today or this weekend, and plan out what makes the most sense for your family. Okay? You have your journal? We ready? Let's go. The first thing I really want you to do is decide. You must decide what part or parts of your day would benefit most from routine. You do not need to schedule your whole life. Please don't. Again, these aren't rules. This is all about stability, predictability, and you just need to stabilize the parts of the day that regularly would feel messy or get too emotional or feel inefficient if they didn't have a routine. So, for example, if you have lunch, and often your kids finish at different times of their eating, some are faster and some are slower, and that's always kind of felt a little chaotic, you could just say to the kids, hey, as soon as you finish eating, you start your 30 minutes of independent reading. And that's something that they could all do on their own, in their own place. Maybe they have a favorite book or a magazine or something that they are excited to be reading or working on. And that, again, is just stable and predictable. Even though it's not a set time, it works. And your children will stop asking, so what am I supposed to do after lunch? Or maybe they don't even ask. They just go jump on some electronics. Start thinking what this could look like for you, because you want your kids to get to a point where they don't ask. They just know this is how it goes. That will lower resistance. It will also speed up focus. So decide on purpose And then you just won't have to keep deciding again every day. Now, when you're determining routines, a lot of families break it down by the time of day. Like, what are morning routines? Maybe you have a goal of wanting to start the day calm. Okay, if that's the goal, then what are your key activities that you're going to do in the morning? What time is everybody getting up? What time are we eating breakfast? What time are we getting dressed? What time are we doing our Bible devotion? What time are we starting our academics? So that could be one area that you could work on. Other families like a loosey-goosey morning, fine. Maybe where you want a routine is midday. And maybe your goal during that midday is you want to maintain momentum for 2, 3, 4 hours so you can get a lot of school work completed. So again, figure out what activities are going to happen in those section of hours and create your midday routine. And other families, a good place to start would be for a nice evening routine. I think evening time is such a great time to prep for the next day's success. When our children were little, I liked to prep for success the night before. So we'd look at the calendar, see what was happening, take a look at what clothes might be necessary, especially if we were going on a field trip or something like that. It was also a nice time to read together, to decompress, to talk about the day. We always like to talk about the day in the evening and then get a good night's sleep. Okay, so that's what I want you to think about first, is just decide what part or parts of your day are going to benefit from a review of your routine or maybe even some new ones. The second thing I want you to consider is what individual choices are you allowing for your children. It's a great idea to have these routines, but to also with the routine offer some controlled choices within whatever it is your kiddos are going to be doing. So let's say that it is time to work on a writing assignment. You can simply say, hey, we're going to work on writing, which kind of feels like a command. And there's nothing wrong with that. However, if you want them to feel like there's a little more ownership, you could say, and you can either write at the kitchen table or maybe at your desk in your room. Where do you want to work? Or you could ask, so did you want to start with outlining today, or do you still have some research you need to do from your reading sources? Or you could ask, and how do you want to work? Do you want to work with pen, pencil, or keyboard today? This type of freedom is going to allow our kids to have some ownership rather than feel pressured or pushed around. And choice is how we can keep routines from feeling like those rules or those commands. For me, I like to move my body every day. But if I told myself it was some stringent schedule, it had to be this on this day, that was the only option, I would be less likely to want to do it. I would fight my own brain on that versus 30 minutes, whatever I want to do. Do I want to do Pilates? Do I want to do a walk, a slow little jog? Do I want to do a HIIT routine? What do I want to do? Having that choice is really freeing. And the third thing that I would recommend is always celebrate the wins of the day. So, for example, you could ask these questions at dinner time where you're having a family conversation. Bedtime, I think, works really great, especially if you have one-on-one time with your kids at the end of the day, and to just ask, or what was one thing that you're so happy that you finished today? Or what was something that was kind of tricky for you, but you did it anyway? Or what is something kind that you did or said, and to whom did you say it? Why this works is because progress becomes more visible when we reflect. Reflection is underestimated. And I want us to spend more time thinking about the things we've said and the things we've done, because all of the good choices that we make are little wins, and little wins are motivating. Yes, for our children, but also for us, because wins move us forward, and they can even have us looking forward to a new day. Ending your day on a positive note is a wonderful thing to do. It will lend itself to a better, more restful night's sleep, and just having that positive end to any day helps a child feel comforted. So I'm curious if your brain is now spinning with possibilities. Are you motivated to review your current routines? Maybe you're inspired to start some new ones. Whatever you work on, I would encourage you to build reliable rhythms and routines that are going to match your family's values. So remember to decide on what that should be. Make room for those individual choices. And don't forget to celebrate the little wins along the way. And please, I would love it if you would share any of those wins with me. What routines are working best for you these days? All right, everybody, have a wonderful rest of your week. Right on. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. And hey, if you are feeling stretched thin and you would love some support with teaching writing, I offer programs designed to make that part of homeschooling easier and more enjoyable for both you and your child. I also have free resources on my website, so please be sure to check those things out and subscribe to the podcast. You do not have to do this alone. Right on.